Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Fire Force Chapter 233. When we last left our heroes, we kind of delved into the backstory of Shinra's birth with Mari Abe, who will eventually become Kusakabe. There's probably some Japanese word that goes in there to make her like that after she's disowned by her parents for having a virgin birth. They don't believe her, of course, because virgin births are unheard of. There's some insinuation that Shinra is becoming a kind of Christ XP. I think I'm using that word right. And then, yeah, she names him Shinra because she thinks he's going to be the savior of the world. And that's kind of where we left off last time, without a lot of answers as to how she had a virgin birth, but, like, the fact that she's had one. So anyway, we open here with Chapter 233, Guardian Angel. And our picture here is of a, like, school-aged Mari. Once upon a time, a sweet, smiling girl was chosen. And that word chosen there, especially given how the Doctor described Mary in the last chapter, does kind of continue the idea of some kind of Christ analog. So anyway, we open with Sho's birth. It looks like Shinra was born of a virgin. Does that mean Sho was as well? And we see little baby Shinra peeking in the window where Sho is sleeping. She doesn't know who the father is. She doesn't know who the father of that boy by the window is either. She doesn't seem like the type to get around that much. I don't get it. So yeah, even all of the other people are like convinced that she's, sleeping around. But Shinra, I mean, even if I don't know if Shinra can or can't hear them, but he definitely does not understand what they're saying if he does. Because, he's like, two. Little bro! And then we cut to some time later. Mari and Shinra are in a park. Mari's carrying little baby Sho. Shinra's looks maybe even a little bit older now. The Sho doesn't look to have aged that much, but like Shinra looks maybe 4 or 5 here, and he looks like 2 on the first page, so I don't know what's going on there. And either way, Sho opens his eyes, and Shinra says, "He's so tiny, he's cute. Sho was a little angel who came to you and me." So the fact that she uses angel there, to me, calls back to what the Doctor said in the last chapter about the virgin who was visited by an angel before she gave birth to the savior, which isn't quite the order of how things happened here, but let's just see where it goes. An angel? Well then, I'm gonna have to become a hero and protect him. Of course, you're the strongest hero after all. Yep. I'm serious, Shinra. You're a hero. And Shinra, looks back at her, a little confused. But then he runs off, and does kind of flying kick, of course setting up all of his kick-loving. Hi-ya! And Sho looks at him, and now we are dragged back to the present, still with no answers, still with Sho, adult winking with Mari. Those were your memories. Memories of me, you, and Shinra. And he flashes back to Shinra saying, I'm gonna be a hero, and protect Mom and Sho. There was a legend they used to talk about prior to the cataclysm. A child born of a virgin. A savior. And we see someone who is clearly meant to be Christ. We can only really see him from the nose down. But we've got the silhouette of long hair that Jesus is typically portrayed with. Interestingly, the ring around him reminds me of the Evangelist. The robes kind of remind me of the Evangelist, but they're much plainer than the Evangelist's robes. So I wonder if that's the connection that Okubo is trying to make here. Not a Shinra Jesus analog, but an Evangelist Jesus analog. Which just by word makes much more sense, though that's a lot harder to fit into the narrative. Unless he's taking a very, unless Okubo is taking a very, anti, or, the idea that, because the end of the world in particularly evangelical Christian theogony is that the word I'm looking for. I'm going really deep in this chapter. Y'all thought my font discussion in Blue Exorcist was picky. Here we go. But the end of the world is all of the Christians rise up to the rapture, and then everyone else kind of is fucked, or goes through hard times but can still be saved. They find Christ, whatever. So it's possible maybe Okubo is condemning Christianity for that belief, or at the very least evangelical Christianity, as we already have the evangelist and evangelical. I don't know. Interesting things interesting things to think about. Not sure if I'm probably, because this is Okubo and he's not that in-depth of a writer, as much as I love him, I doubt it's going to be this complex as I'm making it out to be. A child born of a virgin, a savior. The cataclysm is the merging of our world with Adola, a world of ideas. And the cataclysm has already happened once, which means our world is mixed up with concepts of the people from the past, which would be an explanation as to, I've been thinking about this recently, going back to 216, how the world became anime, so to speak. Is that when the worlds merged, I guess everyone in pre-cataclysm Earth was just a giant fucking weeb? And that's how we got here? I don't know. So, Shinra is a projection of these people's concept of a savior. He's not just a hero to me. He's an actual... I've seen some people in my comments debating questioning whether or not Sho has actually had his redemption arc, or not had a redemption arc, because he's clearly not had a redemption arc, but been redeemed. And this seems to imply yes. This idea that I want to focus though on, there's so much content on every panel in this chapter that I have so much to dig into. This line, Shinra is a projection of those people's concept of a savior. I'm curious. I'm trying to merge that with. I can basically see how that would fit into Shinra's Virgin Birth, right? Because even if those legends were mostly lost in the present day, if those concepts carried through time after the cataclysm, that could, if, Shinra was conceived as much as he was conceived at a moment when Adola and the real world were close, that could explain how Shinra was conceived. The concept of a savior, the concept of, God impregnating Mary in the Bible, or exactly how you want to interpret that. I'm not any kind of religious scholar. What that does not explain, though, is Sho, is what I'm getting at. He's an actual devil, matricidal devil. And then we see, of course, the Shinra that, going back to the Shinra's doppelganger plotline, he is seen as a devil. But then why? Why did he end up? And then Sho kind of floats in the ether, and he has the exact thought I just had. And why was I a virgin birth too? And Mari seems to glare at him, but I'm not sure if she can make any other expression. And then a white feather falls, like an angel's feather, and Sho watches as it falls to the ground of Adola, and just then wings sprout on his back. My brother is an actual hero, but nobody knows the truth. So I'm here to guide and protect him. Mother. That's it, right? And then it looks like the Adola link is starting to fade. Mother, I'll stay with him. I promise. And Mari just looks out as the Adola link fades. And we're back in the real world. But before we go back to the real world, let's kind of dig into this final section. Final section of the link, I mean. Because there's a lot here I'm not entirely following. Because if Shinra's virgin birth was possible through the perception of a savior born of virgin birth, that tracks, right? Like, we can basically follow the pieces there. But how was Sho's angel identity merged in with virgin birth? Because I'm no expert on angels, but I don't think virgin birth is a part of it. Unless I'm mistaken, which I may be. Again, angels aren't exactly my strong suit. I don't know. I can't quite figure out this whole section. Also, as I've said before, Sho's redemption arc is just really, really not there. There's no point A to point B to point C to get him there. He's just gonna jumps from A to C. He breaks free the brainwashing. He breaks out of base. And at that point, I guess you could say he's kind of neutral. But as I said in an earlier panel, let me go and reread that. Maybe you can argue that he wasn't fully redeemed or fully abandoning the evangelist until this page 9. Possibly. I'm not sure. Sho's redemption is just kind of messy plot line that is just a little underdeveloped. It needed more time. Sho just kind of shows up, and he's like freed from the one adult link with Shinra, and then he's now like fully a good guy now, I guess. Anyway, let's jump back into the present, or the real world. And Sho turns to leave. Let's go, Arrow. Yes, sir. And the manager guy, so soon? And then Arrow like whispers to Sho, just now, did something happen? Yeah. The world isn't ending. I found my answer. So I guess, if the world would end from the cataclysm, Shinra's born to be the savior who will stop it. Which is better than a Christ analog, I will say. Someone out there has been trying to deny the truth of my brother's existence, and there's only so many people who would do that. It's time to fight back. I think that means given that Yona is kind of the go-to lies about the truth of the world in order to further his own intentions. I imagine we're setting up a Sho versus Yona fight. Though honestly, has Yona ever fought? Like most of his abilities are like face molding, which isn't exactly a combat-ready ability. Though we might find more to it. And now we're finally back to Company 8. Asakusa, Company 8's temporary covert headquarters. And so we see Hinawa and Obi is kind of laying out their thoughts, it looks like. So if those huge pillars are supposed to herald the cataclysm, and we're expecting there to be 8 of them, then there's 1 left. And all of Company 8 just kind of listens on. The fire force was established to protect the Tokyo Empire. There's no way we're going to sit back. I'm going to make this plain and simple. Shinra, state the fire force's motto. Yes, sir. To protect the lives and property of our citizens. Which means we're going to give the Empire back to the people. Oh, so because of our citizens instead of the Empire, they're going to fight back against. Are they going to go to war with Raffles in order to like rip the White Cloud's control from the Empire? It's a battle to reclaim the Empire. And Arthur turns to Shinra. Think you can manage that, devil? I'm not a devil. And then we cut back to Sho and Arrow. And given this line, I can guess what the next page is going to be. So what exactly is Shinra Kusakabe? And it's just Hero. An image of like Shinra silhouetted, even with the fangs, and still Hero around him. A hero who'll save the world. The people of this scorched, ashen world are waiting for you. To be continued in chapter 234, the 8th. There is color version of the wing panel, which is neat. And yeah, that's 233. We have our answer, and it's basically what Shinra's been saying for the whole fucking series. He is a hero, and that's the answer for Virgin Birth. Which honestly, the show does do a good job connecting those ideas, just because Adola is such a fascinating concept. An entire world of perceptions, and as the two worlds mix, perceptions of the Savior, of the Christ, can bleed into the real world, leading to a virgin birth. God, that's just fascinating. That's some great shit. And then, yeah, so Sho is probably going to go try to fight Yona. We'll see exactly how that goes in the coming, not next chapter, given the next chapter is titled The 8th. At long last, after 14 chapters, we're finally going back to the main characters, which is nice. It's good to see them. Because they're finally getting ready to strike back into the Empire. And I will say, if I have one complaint, my biggest complaint, I will say, of this final act of the series, so to speak, is that it doesn't feel like much has changed for Company 8, since they're, being declared criminals and all. Sure, they moved to Asakusa, and, Obi has some, stealth meetings at the beginning of the Stone Pillar arc, to, get Pan on board and Honda. But beyond that, they're just kind of strolling around Asakusa. They're not really in hiding. Sure, they can't go out to join the fight with the Stone Pillars, against the Stone Pillars, but it doesn't really feel like it's impacted them a whole lot. It doesn't feel like they're constantly about to be caught by the Empire. And so the problem that leads to this whole battle to reclaim the Empire, it doesn't really feel like the Empire has changed too much. I don't know. That's not a huge criticism. It's just kind of a not great thing going on right now. Um, but yeah, beyond that, it's a really interesting chapter. They at the very least make Shinra's virgin birth make sense. Shows is still a little weird. I don't quite track the route from angel to virgin birth the same way that Christ to concept of savior to virgin birth tracks in a very, very notable straight line. Um, but yeah, with that said, Sho is going to go, probably fight Yona. Before that, the 8th is finally, after months and months and months since Shinra's recovery, about to make their move. And I can't wait to see it. So that's all I have to say for this chapter. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe or, do whatever makes you happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!